Hey my beautiful bitches, it's me, Fiona St. James, and welcome to another episode of Fiona's Coffee Talks. And as always, I'd like to start off every morning with a fresh, black, hot cup of coffee. Hold the cream! I'd love to. So, today's topic is part 2 of my coronavirus video. Hopefully you all saw part 1. And I mentioned at the end of that I wanted to do a second part and focus on a different aspect of this whole coronavirus. So, first I want to clarify, at the beginning of the first episode, I mentioned how we get it through human touch. I wanted to expand when I said that to say that I don't necessarily only mean like human touch, like, you touching someone, but I mean like just literally as a human, if you touch certain surfaces, because as we know, it lives on surfaces, it lives on clothing, we're learning more and more about this. So that's why they're being so specific about, you got to wash your hands all the time. And, even just soap and water, doesn't even have to be antibacterial soap is my understanding of what they're saying now. The whole 20 seconds things, the 20 seconds of doing that. And that's because what they don't want to happen is if you actually touch a surface or touch something that has it, then you suddenly touch your face, which we all have a habit of doing that. I even noticed as I was playing back the first video, I have a tendency of doing that. So I'm going to try to be aware of not doing that, even though I'm in the privacy of my own home. And, I keep a very clean, neat home anyway. But, excuse me, the past week, my apartment is spotless. I have been disinfecting and Clorox wipes and just like every other day just to make sure that everything is good. And I've been really good about, if I do go out, wearing the gloves, wearing the mask, washing my hands, all of that good stuff. So I just wanted to clarify when I said human touch in the first video that I meant all of those different aspects of it, and touching something and then touching yourself. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about in this particular video is the whole political thing that's going on. Now, I'm not political in that, I am to a certain degree, but I know some of my friends that really are like, that's like the number one thing in their lives. And even though I am to a certain degree, I've always made it a point that I did not want my YouTube channel to be political at all. But now I find myself with all of this going on that I kind of feel like I have to say at least a little something. So, number 45, as people like to call him, President Trump, I don't even, frankly, I'm not as supportive of him because I think he's pretty incompetent at this point. And it just kills me that, here he is, President of the United States, and it just doesn't seem like he really gives a shit about any of us. Doesn't really seem like he's done too much for this, when he had the opportunity to. He knew about this, or it was told about this well before any of us did, and he just, I guess, didn't really take it seriously. Because remember, here's a man who thinks that scientists and doctors and people that know things, he thinks he knows more than everything, which is why people say he's a narcissist, which he is. And, just even look at him, it just doesn't even look right. And I don't mean aesthetically, I mean just he doesn't come across as someone who's even all that right in the head. So, and when you think about it, as recently as a few weeks ago, he was saying it was a hoax. And see, that's the part that's scary, is that there's so many people out there that are his supporters who, whatever he says, they think that is golden and that is an actual fact. So when he's sitting here saying it's a hoax and he's not taking it seriously, then how do we expect other people to take it seriously, because his followers are going to believe everything he says? And just how he speaks to people, at these press conferences. There was that reporter the other day who, simply said, what could you, say to like calm the American people? And he basically like insulted the man and told him that he was stupid and nasty. And that's a very legitimate question, People are scared. This is a scary time. You're our leader, for God's sakes. Say something to calm us down instead of standing there like the orange, arrogant piece of shit that he is. Just saying, and even on like social media, I've noticed like on Facebook, people have been posting. There's this one particular post that pretty much says everything that he has said since like a few weeks ago, let's say the past month, and broken down by date and everything he says. And you could see that like, is this man for real? So people have been sharing that like crazy. And the part that kills me with that is that those are facts. People aren't making up and saying he said this, as opposed to him, who half the time he will say something and then deny that he said it, which I don't even understand that. But if they're pointing out, this is what you said on these particular days, then I'm looking at these posts, and then there are actual people that still support him or his supporters who are then like being defensive and like arguing with the people who are posting this and saying, oh, you're all haters and this and that, which, let's keep it real. If there were a Democrat in the White House, so like let's say if Hillary would have won, or anyone who was a Democrat, if they were in the White House and handling this the way that he has been handling it, then all of those diehard Republicans would be up in arms and saying all the shit that people are saying about him. And it doesn't even have anything to do with what party you belong to. It has to do with like, you're a human being, like be smart about this. Use your common sense. And the man doesn't seem to be, but yet, despite that, he still has his followers that in their eyes, he will do no wrong. I don't understand it. I'm not here to try to understand it. That's what they want to do. That's fine. But it's like, open your eyes. It's as simple as that. The other thing that I've seen on social media is where a lot of people have been posting and making the comparison of what's happening now and how the government is handling it, where like, even though it took a minute, at least they're doing something about it. And they're comparing it to the AIDS epidemic, where it had been around for years. And, I've said this in previous videos where, when that first became an issue, it was primarily gay men getting it. So they were referring to it as the gay cancer, and they called it GRID as opposed to AIDS. And it wasn't until heterosexual people started getting it, and then Rock Hudson getting it, that put it in the mainstream media. But by then, so many gay people had died because the government didn't give a shit. So there have been people on social media, gay people, or even if they're not gay, that are saying how, what's the word I want to use? Not ironic or hypocritical, but how it's crazy that how come they didn't do this back then? And that's a very valid point. Well, we all know why, because, I've said this too, where because it was only gay people getting it initially, they don't give a shit about gay people. So what better way to get rid of a race that you don't give a shit about? But let's not say anything and let them, fuck each other to death. That's the unfortunate reality, but that's my take on that. So that's all I'm going to say about this in terms of the politics. I'm just glad that, at least people seem to be on board. Governor Cuomo is amazing. I wish he were president, because to hear this man speak, and he speaks eloquently, and his compassion, and he actually cares about people, as opposed to number 45, who even when he speaks, it's like, what? So, enough about the politics and the social media. So, speaking of social, that's the other big thing about, my other big thing that I want to discuss in this video, is the whole social distancing. Makes sense to me. And I said in my first video, when I first, a couple of weeks ago, when it became evident to me that this is going to be more than what anyone would like it to be, I started immediately doing that, even before they started saying, keep your distance. But it kills me that in the last couple of weeks, since they've been saying, stay at home, don't go out if you don't have to, only do, the essentials, before they actually are mandating it, there were people and things happening that people just didn't really seem to give a shit. Like in Miami, there was a circuit party not too long ago, like all within the last couple of weeks, while this was already like, happening. What's happening in Europe and, Italy and Spain and everywhere. And then it hadn't really hit this. It was just starting to hit the States, but the writing was already on the wall. And then it hit. And then all of a sudden they have a circuit party in Miami where you got all these thousands of gay guys going to a circuit party. I don't even understand that. Or even in the UK, there was a stereophonic concert that had tens of thousands of people. Or like spring break was just like a week ago, and all these kids in Florida going to the beach and, oh, it's spring break and I don't care and I've had this planned and blah, blah, blah. And they just didn't seem to give a shit. Or there was even footage of like the beaches of Clearwater, Florida. While we're in the middle of a pandemic, people are flocking to the beach. And is it that they think that they're not going to get it? Or are people still actually thinking it's a hoax because that's what this idiot said? I don't know. Just the whole thing is so mind-boggling to me that, and it's because of this level of stupidity is what I refer to it as, that now all of a sudden these states have to say shelter at home and they're mandating where like don't go out. And yeah, like if you go out unnecessarily and you're going to be hanging out in groups or walking in groups, you'll get ticketed, you'll get fined. But wouldn't it be great if people just use common sense and were smart about it and realize this is something serious going on? Why don't I just keep my stupid ass home and not go anywhere unless you have to? You have to go to the store. You have to go to the drugstore, something like that. But stay away from people. Don't hang out with people. Stop having friends come over. What do you even, I said that in the first video that a couple of guys that I know, oh, let's hang out. Let's not. And say we did. So that whole mentality of, I guess, people thinking they're not going to get it or people just not taking it seriously enough. That's why then suddenly stuff like this has to be put into place. Because if people would just be smart about it, then the government wouldn't have to intervene and say, okay, we're going to implement this because no one is paying attention, or a lot of people are not. I think by and large, the majority are, but there's just too many people who I think are not. And that's the unfortunate reality. And if people would just stop for a minute and realize, let's just be smart about this and nip this in the bud. That's how we're going to nip it in the bud. Because let's face it, the economy is fucked. Everything is fucked. People are losing jobs. The stock market is messed up. People are losing money with their IRAs and their stocks, and I don't see it getting any better. I hate to sound pessimistic, but we as citizens can do our part in it by actually using our common sense and staying home and doing the social distancing and not going out unnecessarily. Go out for the essentials. But, school was out and you had these kids, like families, like in the playground. What? The point of you being told don't go to school is to be away from one another, to protect yourselves, not let's all go to the parks and congregate and play basketball and have a barbecue. I don't get it. Okay, I'm going to look at my notes. Economy, fuck no. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, the other thing in terms, oh, look, I touched my face. Sorry. Don't do that, people. The other thing in terms of like the economy and then not being any, people losing their jobs and money, unfortunately being tight. I mean, I hope that the government will intervene and, they're talking about sending everyone $1,000. I think now they're saying maybe $1,200. That would obviously be great and help people out. But, the bigger picture is it's like, I try not to think of this, but it's like, well, what if things really get bad? Are people, going to suddenly then become like desperate? And is crime going to go up because people are going to, try to rob people or loot or anything of that nature? Like, you try not to think of that. But exactly a week ago, Saturday, I was here. I had already been doing, I've been doing, like I said, for almost 2 weeks where I'm like, I'm not, or a week and a half anyway, where I'm like, I'm not going out. I'm not going to see people. I'm going to just lay low and do what I have to do. So I got an Amazon package that afternoon. And then half an hour later, my intercom rang again. And I thought, I'm not expecting a package. So I answered, who is it? Nothing. Excuse me. Second later, I say, who is it? And it was a man's voice. A man, obviously, who I didn't know who he was. And he was like, oh, I'm a neighbor. Do you think I could come up and chat? Now, he wasn't a neighbor that lived in my building, because if he lived in my building, he wouldn't be trying to get in. So I was like, wait a minute, is this someone that's just like trying to get into the building that like wants to try to rob people? Or maybe legitimately it was someone that was like, lived in the neighborhood that was like reaching out because maybe they were scared and alone? Or was it someone just trying to get into the building? So when he said that, I didn't even respond, because I was like, bitch, first of all, I'm not buzzing anyone up. And even if I knew you, even if it was someone that I knew that showed up unexpectedly, I would have said, bitch, go home, leave me alone. I don't want you to come into my apartment. So, but I thought, was that, is that already a sign of what could potentially happen? I don't know. So, scary times we are living in, and all we could do is just try to be smart about it. So I will make this one short, because I noticed my other video was like 20 minutes. This, and I'm not wearing my glasses, so I don't know what the timestamp says, but I'm guessing it's hopefully a little less time than that. But all right, guys, again, thank you for tuning in. Please be safe. Please take care of yourselves, take care of each other. And let's just be smart about this. And I think together as a nation, this gives us a chance, especially, we New Yorkers tend to be resilient. So let's all pull together and do our parts. We can win this. Everyone's going to be fine. We just all have to be really smart about it. And I have faith and trust in my viewers that my bitches are smart. So we're all going to be good. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget, subscribe, thumbs up, notifications. Until the next time, love yous. Bye.